Teri. Hello, welcome everyone. And I also would like to welcome amazing Teri Holamon. And we are going to listen to your talk titled Animal Assisted Play Therapy in Schools. This is something really super fascinating. And I would like to tell our audience a little bit about you. You are licensed professional counselor supervisor, certified school counselor in the state of Texas. You are also a registered play therapist supervisor and certified humanistic centered therapist. Never heard of that. That is so super interesting. And you became the first certified animal assisted play therapist in the United States through, of course, the International Association of Animal Assisted Play Therapy. So you work so closely with Reese, who co-founded the organization, and you bring over 20 years of clinical experience, decades of working with dogs, but not only with dogs, also horses, and also you've been to state national conferences when you presented, and you own a private practice in Texas. And you are also the owner of North Texas Therapy Animals. Wow, so that's an organization that certifies therapy animals. How many jobs you have?
What?
That's a short answer. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. And you also instructor, evaluator for volunteer therapy dog teams. And you are an instructor for reading education assistance dogs. And you work extensively, of course, with elementary students, with also, with schools, and libraries, bookstores, community programs. Uh, so much experience and expertise and skills, obviously, too. Welcome. And how are you doing today?
Very much. I'm doing well. A little cold here in Texas, believe it or not.
That is interesting, because I think that pretty soon it's going to get there very hot.
It will be very hot very soon. It was only 13 degrees yesterday morning, but it's supposed to be in the 70s tomorrow. So who knows?
Yeah, exactly. Who knows? We have to be just get ready for just about anything.
Right.
Um, One of the things when I found out about this practice, animal assisted play therapy,
Mhm.
was I had this question, like, what does that mean? Like, what it can look like in a school setting? If you could give us a little like overview of what it can look like in a school setting, it'd
Yes.
be great.
So my first thought is, do people know what play therapy actually is? So that would maybe be the first way to go to explain that, because play therapy is a therapeutic modality, just like maybe cognitive behavioral therapy, gestalt therapy, psychoanalysis. Those are all modalities, and that's what play therapy is. And play therapists work with children of all ages. We work with adults. We do play therapy with adults too, but mainly with children, because play is really their language. Toys are their words. And we select toys. We don't just collect, but we select different types of toys for them to kind of work through their traumas and things like that. We have therapy plans, we have goals, we have objectives that we work with. So when you now add animals into animals and make it animal assisted play therapy, you're using all the tenets of play therapy, but you're including animals in that as well. So again, we don't just bring our animals into our practice. We have a therapy involvement plan for them to reach the goals and objectives of our clients. So that's kind of what it looks like in a therapeutic setting. Now, how do we do that in schools? There probably are some districts somewhere that allow school counselors to do therapy with students. The district that I was in, we were not allowed to use the word therapy. It always had to be counseling. So, but and it was building by building, principal by principal. I had a wonderful principal, and she allowed me to bring my golden doodle. His name was Gibbs. He passed away a little over a year ago, at the age of 15. And she allowed me to bring him in, and I set up my office there so that I had bookcases that kind of cut my office in half. And behind the bookcases is where I set up the toys and the play therapy, and where I would work one-on-one with students with Gibbs. So it was very similar to my practice, but it does look different in schools. So I want to tell you, Risa Van Fleet and Tracy Faw Thompson are the ones that are the co-founders of this modality. And I wanted to read to you their definition of play therapy, animal assisted play therapy. And it's the integrated involvement of animals in the context of play therapy, which appropriately trained therapists and animals engage with clients primarily through systematic playful interventions with the goal of improving the client's developmental and psychosocial health, while simultaneously ensuring the animal's well-being and the voluntary engagement. Play and playfulness are essential ingredients of the interactions and the relationship. So a couple of things right there, the play and the playfulness, which we can incorporate in school settings easily, and that the animal's well-being is always first and foremost, and that the animal has voluntary engagement. And that's so important there. So in a school setting, Gibbs came with me to school for many years. We have recommendations because we see the animals as sentient beings who have agency, who have choice. We only like the animals to work no more than 2 to 3 days a week, and if possible, only 2 hours at a time. That's not always possible, and I understand that. I had a wonderful situation. I lived 5 minutes from school, so I could bring him in the mornings and take him home at lunch. It was not an issue for me. But school settings are complex settings. They can be very stressful for dogs. So it's important that we listen to our dogs and that we do give them choice. Gibbs wore a special vest when we went, and many mornings when I would take it off the hook, he would be there ready to put it on. We put it on, and then we went off. Some mornings I took it off the hook and he looked at me and made a beeline for his bed and laid down. And so then I didn't take him. He said, "No, I don't want to go today." So we have to process that with children who may have been expecting him, because children also need choice and agency, and they don't get that a lot as well. So it's a good metaphor for them. But I worked a lot with bibliotherapy. It's reading to the dogs. I do reading education assistance work. We were able to take some qualitative data on that so that we could show progress that children made with reading comprehension and reading fluency. It was wonderful. But there's so much more qualitative data stories that happened. I worked with a little boy who was on the spectrum, who fell in love with, just fell in love. They loved each other. It was a mutual relationship, Gibbs and this young man. And I helped him learn how to train Gibbs. A lot of it were things that he already knew, but this little boy worked with him. And then when we went into classrooms, he was able to go in with me. And we did some psychoeducation, some social emotional learning in the classrooms with the dog. And he really helped out a lot. He would come in at lunchtime and just hang out in my office and eat lunch with me and read to Gibbs. He probably around third or fourth grade was reading to Gibbs. I'll just tell you this little short story, was reading to Gibbs. And it was a book, Clifford the Big Red Dog, but it was called No Dogs Allowed. It had a grumpy old man who didn't want dogs around. And he was reading out loud to Gibbs, and suddenly he stopped verbally reading, but I saw his eyes tracking down the page. And then he turned the page. He had a really solemn look on his face, and he turned the page, and I could see his eyes tracking again, and I just let it go. And finally he turned the page again, and then he looked up at me and he said, "I'm going to skip these pages because this man is really mean and puts a sign in his yard, no dogs allowed, and I'm afraid it might hurt Gibbs' feelings." Well, when his mother came to pick him up that day and I told her, she burst into tears because she said that that was the very first time ever he had shown any empathy to another living being. And many years later, he was in special education. Many years later, he was a very gifted child. In high school, his mother called me again in tears that he had been dismissed from special ed because he was doing so well. And she said it was all because of Gibbs and me, but we know it was because of Gibbs. But this young man went through college. He's an adult now, and every year on my birthday, he texts me happy birthday. So for a child on the spectrum, that's a huge, huge deal. I have so many stories like that Gibbs did throughout his work in the school system. There's an educational component. We can include dogs in all kinds of, not just reading, but games of math. And it's your own creativity that is the limit. It's just whatever you can come up with. In fact, Barbara, I read some of your things online about, some math games and things like that. And I was like, yes, this is wonderful. So we did a lot of things like that. Yeah. The other thing I want to say, though, about it is even when the dog is not there at the school, their presence is still felt by all the children. I had bulletin boards up, some social emotional bulletin boards that had Gibbs pictures and the things that we wanted them to learn, pause before saying things, and it said think, and I'm sure you know that bulletin board, but Gibbs' picture was on it. Gibbs, for children who didn't do their homework and didn't like to do it or bring it back or whatever, we started a program where if they brought it back, they could come down to my office. They could get a sticker with Gibbs' picture on it to go on their homework, or a rubber stamp of his paw. I had a rubber stamp made of his actual paw. He also had trading cards. So the kids were really motivated, those that were having such a hard time just returning their homework. They were motivated to know that they could come down to my office anytime and get his stamp. We did a music video. My sons are in the music business. We did a music video with a little dance, and we played that throughout the school in the mornings for the morning message. there were a lot of things that we did that even when Gibbs wasn't there, the kids were always thinking about him and always reading or doing their homework or whatever it was, just to be able to come tell me, look, can you show this to Gibbs? Can you tell Gibbs I brought my homework back? So a lot of things like that you can do in schools. And he was always there for, we had fun days at school for different things, and he was there to participate. At the end of the week, children who had brought back homework or done certain things or whatever could get 5 or 10 minutes playtime with him at the end of the week. So it was always playful. It was always relationship based. And Gibbs always had choice on whether or not he was going with me that day. Oops, I can't hear you.
Thank you. I muted myself because I heard some strange noise. It was like bird chirping. So I decided, well, how about I mute myself? The bird chirping stopped. It wasn't a real bird. I have to say that it was something technological. I have a question from actually one of my lovely students in my master's program, Camilla. Do students need an evaluation to qualify for play therapy and therapy dogs? Like how that works?
In the school setting, I would say, for me personally, no, they didn't. Teachers came to me and said, I think that this student could really benefit from some time with Gibbs. I don't want to go over time, but another quick little story. There was a student who had he had a speech issue, a speech impediment, and kids made fun of him and bullied him and things like that. And they were only in one of the very youngest grades. And the teacher said, I really think he needs some motivation. He doesn't speak in class. The kids are kind of mean to him. He could use some self-esteem. I think maybe some time with Gibbs. And so he wanted to read with him. But I also had other teams come in from different organizations who were registered therapy dog teams for the reading program. And so he was a little afraid. He told me he was a little afraid of dogs. So we had this little bitty 3-pound Chihuahua mix come in. She rode in a little basket that her handler had. And we set her on a blanket in the basket on the floor and thought he would sit next to her and pet her when he read, but he sat about 6 feet away because he said, oh, she's got big teeth. But when he went back in, he had the stickers and the trading cards. And when he went back into the classroom and the kids found out what he had done, they were in awe of him. And suddenly he wasn't so strange anymore. And they started to include him. They quit teasing him. They started to include him more. And every week he would come into my office and say, I want to read to another dog. And so we kept getting different dogs that were kind of progressively larger. He did the same thing. He would never touch the dog, sat 6 feet away. Finally, he said, I want to read to Gibbs. Well, Gibbs was a 100-pound dog. He was huge.
Yeah.
And I told him that. And he said, no, I want to read to Gibbs. And so Gibbs came in and he laid down on the blanket, and he was so long that the boy sat 6 feet away, but Gibbs' tail was right there. And he started petting his tail. And that was the first time he touched the dog. But teacher said, obviously it didn't help his speech impediment at all. But the teacher said now he was raising his hand. He was answering questions. He was participating. The other kids were looking at him through a different lens, different eyes. So, no.
so many amazing stories.
Yes.
I think the power of therapy animals, they can really help in creating genuinely and really inclusive environment, because there's so much talk about, well, we need to be inclusive, and we think we are inclusive, but there is a lot of bullying going on still, right? And the bullying sometimes is kind of so nuanced, like it sort of doesn't exist really, but it does in all different ways. And therapy animals, they can help so much with this if included responsibly. You just told us so many amazing stories, and I hear about Gibbs because he was just amazing.
Was amazing.
Let's switch gears a little bit to showing us, if you don't mind,
Yes.
pathway to animal assisted play therapy certification. If someone would like to consider this, obviously they could reach out and ask you for some tips where to go, how to start. But thank you so much. Would like to hear some more about it.
Yeah. So this is our path to certification at the International Institute for Animal Assisted Play Therapy. This Dr. Van Fleet and Tracy Fa Thompson are the originators of this modality. And the beginning is to sign up for a level 1. You get 2 online courses when you sign up for that level 1. It's a 4-day workshop. It's a hands-on workshop. I'm actually having one in June in Texas that is going to be geared toward teachers, educators, school counselors, really the education field. So they might want to consider that and think about that. But they do a level 1. I hear a lot of people in a lot of the online social media therapy dog groups for school therapy and everything. It's, how do I train my dog? Where do I start? What do I do
Right.
with my dog? And truly, that's the easy part. The hard part, the question they should be asking is, how do I train myself? Where do I start? Because you have to be able to read dog body language. That's what we teach in level 1. It's very much, how do we read dog body language? How do we know what our dogs are trying to tell us?
Mm-hmm.
How do we read that in real time too? Because that can be really difficult. And I always tell people in level 1, you don't know what you don't know. We might think we know a lot about dogs, but we don't even know what we don't know. So you go through a level 1, that 4-day workshop. It's an amazing workshop. Then you get some consultation or supervision, we call it. And eventually, after you work with your supervisor for a while, they'll say, I think you're ready to go on to level 2. You sign up for level 2. That's one where you actually bring your dog to it. In level 1, you work with our dogs, like my dogs or the other trainers' dogs. Level 2, you bring your dog, and you're working with your dog, and we're helping you work with your dog, how to train. That's where how to train your dog, and things that you'll need that way. And then after level 2, you do one more round of supervision where you're getting all your paperwork together and your supervisor's helping you. You apply for certification, and then it goes to our certification board.
Well, I mean, the process is quite extensive. I'm thinking that level where you eventually include your own dog. The dog then needs to be of certain age, and like after obedience class, like what are the conditions for including the dog at that level?
Right. We just want to make sure that the dog is about at least a year old, and just has some basic obedience, like sit, down, stay. We're not asking for a lot, but and also that they maybe can get along with other dogs. But even that's not that important, because I do ask people to bring crates so that we can have our dogs in crates while we're learning. It is hands-on, but we also work with horses in both level 1 and level 2. We have a place where we go with horses. So the dogs would have to be crated or left in a hotel room or wherever. Sometimes people stay with parents or something, friends. But so even that's not critical. But we do we have a list kind of certain things for your own dog.
Wow. So let's say if somebody, I'm not certified through animal assisted play therapy through your group and recess with a different organization. Let's say if I wanted to consider this, and I live where I live in upstate New York, and like how would I be able to have access to this kind of workshop? Would I have to travel, long distance to be able to participate? How would that work?
We have the level 1 workshops. They are posted on we have a Facebook page for play therapy, for AAPT play therapy. And we have all of the workshops listed there or on our website, iiaapt.org. So we've probably got right now, we've listed through, I think, August, and there's probably 10 workshops on there all over the country. We have some in the UK, we have some in Australia.
Yeah, wow. Yeah.
So if you want to go on a vacation while you go to a level 1 in the UK or Australia, you can do that, because we are around the world. But we offer them in a lot of different locations.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So you should be able to find one fairly close to you.
I mean, it's amazing because I mean, you learn so much, and I think that you learn more than through regular therapy animal organization. I mean, there's quite a few, and each has a little bit different standards and how they go around it. But here you really learn a lot. It's very extensive and very helpful too. Incredible. Yep.
And our certification is a competency-based certification. So you're showing that you know how to read animal body language in real time, that you know the principles and all of these things. You are demonstrating that through supervision.
Amazing. And I do hope that your work will also help others to kind of like think about like what's missing in our organization, because what you do, it really sets a high bar, I think. Teri, I mean, this was so incredible. We could go on and on, certainly. And I would like to thank you, our wonderful audience who joined. And where can they find you if somebody wanted to just contact and ask for any kind of advice or point to website? That would be appreciated.
Yeah. You can, I have a website, teriholamon.com, but the International Institute of Animal Assisted Play Therapy has a website. I'm the chairman of our certification board. Our certification board has a website. So if you contact me through that email, it comes directly to me. So there's several ways. We also have an association, the International Association of Animal Assisted Play Therapy. So there's 3 different websites you can go to.
Exactly. Thank you so much. I think it was so valuable, and we appreciate your time. And incredible stories, and that is just so powerful to hear those stories, because that's how you can show what this practice can do for children and anybody else involved. Really, we really appreciate you so much, Teri. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Have a wonderful the rest of the weekend, and I'm sure I will see you somewhere on social media because you are also very active in the Facebook group, and not only. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.